You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Friday here in the Quad Cities. It is Friday, February 21st. Thank you guys so much for joining us. TGIF Friday is here. The weekend is almost upon us. We have one more good show to get to before we head off into the weekend as well. It's been a fun week here on Off the Air. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, watching the show, viewing it on all the platforms that you can throughout the Quad Cities. Of course, we're live right now on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribing as well. We're also live on X. And we're also up on all the podcasting platforms after the show gets over. So I always say, if you don't want to look at my ugly face, which I understand completely, go check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well. Over the weekend, we're going to figure out this Facebook thing. So hopefully by next week, we are up live on Facebook every day as well. So the more off the air, the better, I guess is what you'd have to say. So we have a really good Friday lined up show-wise. The sun's shining here in the Quad Cities. It's not miserably cold out. It's still cold, but not as bad. They're saying by Sunday we'll be in the 40s. So I think we're going to start turning a corner here, and hopefully we'll get some spring weather coming in the real near future. But as for today's show, I'm super excited. Coming up about 10:45 live in studio will be my good friend, known this guy for a long, long time. His second appearance out here at the house. Jay Kidwell, sports director at Channel 4, will join me to talk about a lot of high school action that's gone on around the area. We'll talk some college sports, some professional sports. Really good hockey game last night as well. I know Jay loves hockey, so a lot to get to with Jay Kidwell coming up around 10:45 in the second hour of the show as well. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll talk girls basketball, a lot of high school girls basketball, because last night, a big night, a lot of regional championships were won. So coming up in a little bit, we'll catch up with a guy that used to teach me in high school. That's how old this man is, but he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. Jay Hatch, former Alleman basketball coach, former Alleman softball coach, but right now currently the Riverdale girls basketball coach, will join us in a little bit. The Riverdale Rams winning a regional championship last night. Talk to him about that, but also about girls basketball in general, how he's seen it grow over the last 30 years. A lot to get to with the Hall of Famer Jay Hatch coming up in a matter of moments. Also, coming up in the first hour of the show, my alma mater will be well represented because the Alleman girls basketball team winning a regional championship last night, their second straight regional championship. A trio of Alleman young ladies will be joining us in just a little bit. Megan Holke, Adeline Voss, and Carson Wendt will be on to chat with us, getting out of class to do a little TV work, if you will, on a Friday. So we'll talk to those three young ladies in just a little bit. So a lot to get to on today's show. Again, Jay Kidwell coming up around 10:45 as well. And if you missed any of our shows throughout the week, make sure you go back and check them out. Some fun shows that we've had. Chad Leistigo was on yesterday. A really great conversation. Got a lot of positive feedback from the interview as well, because Chad, one of the best in the business, Iowa beat writer for the Des Moines Register and the Iowa City Press Citizen, really laid out what Beth Getz is now having to look for when it comes to Iowa basketball, or what the decision that she has moving forward with Fran McCaffrey, if they move on to a new head coach, attendance issues, all of that. Did a great job of researching and just kind of putting out the facts for everyone. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it kind of laid out in Chad's article. Check out his article as well. But great conversation with Chad Leistigo yesterday. Check that out. Also yesterday, Mark Polite on talking about the Rock Island basketball team. They knocked off Quincy earlier this week. They're getting ready for regionals next week as well. And then really fun to catch up with Kyle Taylor. Kyle's a standout junior guard at Monmouth, the Monmouth Fighting Scots. winning their conference championship as well. So really fun interview with him as well. So go check out yesterday's show. Also this week, we've had Glenn Cook on. One of the most watched shows I've had in weeks was the great Glenn Cook sitting in the chair next to me, chatting about Rock Ridge and everything in between. So go check out Glenn Cook as well. He calls he does the PA for Rock Ridge for the last time after 51 years. That's tonight out at Rock Ridge. So go check out Glenn before you head out to the game. Also this week, Andrew Lehman on Wednesday announcing that the Zach Brown Band will be the headline concert on Sunday at the John Deere Classic. That was live on our show at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Go check out our interview with him as well. And then Monday, we started the show off, or the week off, I should say, with Pat Anger and Jess Settles and several others. So go check out. Noah Laporte was on Monday as well, Princeton's all-time leading scorer. So ton of great stuff we got to this week. Go check it all out. It's all on our YouTube channel, all up on the podcasting platforms as well. And of course, we're on X now. So if you're watching us live on X, we appreciate that as well. This thing's continuing to grow. We're really excited about it here on Off the Air. Coming up in a little bit, we mentioned a lot of girls basketball to get to. Regional championships were won yesterday, I should say. And we had Taylor Jackson, Sterling's head coach, on earlier this week. It all runs together for me, but I think it was on Tuesday. Congratulations to Coach Jackson and the rest of the Golden Warriors. They won their first regional championship since, I believe, 2019 last night. So they are a 3A regional champion. Also Galesburg winning. In 2A, Alleman, Riverdale, Monmouth, Roseville, all winning regional championships as well. In 1A, A-Town, Weathersfield, and Ridgewood also winning regional championships. Coming up tonight, up in Galena, the Galena girls have been fantastic for years. They're really good once again this year. They're playing for a regional championship as well. And one of those teams winning a regional championship last night was Riverdale. We're joined now by the head coach of the Rams, a familiar face around the area, Jay Hatch. First and foremost, Jay, thanks for doing this. I had you as a teacher, and way back, gosh, I don't want to date myself, but maybe, 25, 30 years ago, did you ever think you'd be getting on a Zoom link with a goofy student talking about regional basketball? Times have changed a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, Zoom links didn't exist, so I definitely didn't know about any of that. But it's been a long, strange trip, as they say in the movies.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Hey, the trip continues. It's been a good season for Riverdale. Your Rams get a regional championship last night, 47-25 over Oregon. Second straight one for those girls out there at Riverdale. What did it mean for you guys to get that plaque? And every one of them are special. What's it mean to be regional champions once again?
Yeah, I think you hit it. Everyone is special. Every year is a new year. Kids graduate, and you want to see what you can do with the new group. And people are going to be in different roles than they were last year, and so it's like kind of like a jigsaw puzzle every year. And when you have success and on the scoreboard, it's fun, and the kids were excited last night, and as they should be. And we're just excited we get at least 4 more days together as a team, and we're going to keep trying to extend it every time out.
Coach, you mentioned that everything is always different. It's a jigsaw puzzle. Take me through this team, because when did you see, you look at your schedule and some tough losses against some really good teams. When did you start seeing the pieces come together that that this team could do well to win a regional championship, maybe more?
I usually don't think in those terms much, but I thought we could be good. We're a strange team because we only start one senior, but we have seniors and juniors that are important contributors, but we start 3 sophomores. So it's kind of an odd, I don't know if odd's the right word, but atypical sort of mix. But, we have a lot of experience. Even kids that are, sophomores and juniors have played a lot. It's just a matter of, like I said earlier, players realizing their roles and getting comfortable in those roles, and then being able to excel in them. We intentionally beefed up our schedule this year, so we've played some pretty salty teams, and a couple times they've put salt in our wounds. But it's all a learning process, and hopefully it's allowed us to reach this point where we're playing the best we can at this time of year.
Yeah, I was going to mention because the conference, or I should say the schedule was a tough, difficult schedule, but in the conference you play in, with the teams you play against almost each day, each night in and out, you're going to get tested. How did your own conference help prepare you for this postseason and a regional and sectionals now to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some teams in our conference that are year in and year out really solid. Sherrard's obviously been good for a decade or so now. And Monmouth Roseville's really good. You may have seen that was the regional final last night, and Monmouth actually beat them. Rock Ridge is always a challenge. They really guard people and really get after you. And Mercer County's new in our league this year. They're really athletic. There's a number of teams. Basically, if you're not ready to go in our conference, it's going to be a long night for you. So, that's good. And, our non-conference schedule, like I said, we try to beef it up. We've played Alleman for since I've been here, but, that was always there. But, we picked up Byron this year, who's really, really good. And Weathersfield also really good. So, and I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but, we just tried to make it so we see better competition with different styles. So when you get to this time of the year, you've at least seen somebody who did something similar to what you're running into at this time of year.
Coach, it was your third, I believe, regional at Riverdale, but 17 overall. And I kind of mentioned at the beginning, like each one is special. But can you talk to that more? Because it's year 30 for you, and you seem like you love it just as much as you did back when it was year number one. What's this journey been like for you? And I know you mentioned each one is special, but can you compare and contrast a little bit what now is like to compare to maybe a young Jay Hatch who didn't know maybe as much as you know now, but didn't have as many gray hairs as you do now?
First of all, only 17? No, just kidding. My thought was really we've not won a regional 13 times. Anyway, I think with the way things have changed through the way the IHSA does things now, I think a regional is more special. Back in the old days, there were years where if you didn't win the regional, you felt like it was a failure. And I don't think that's the case anymore with the seeding process. And, we're playing Oregon in a regional championship. That's an awfully long way for a regional. And that's the biggest change, I think. Just realizing how special they are. And when I was young, I kind of expected to win everything every year, and that's just not realistic. Took me a while to figure that out. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box, but I think that's the biggest thing. You realize how special they are and how much goes into it. And you can have a really good year and not win a regional. We won 20 plus games my first year out here, and we didn't win the regional. And so, there's things like that can happen. And like I said, after I've been doing this a while, the real fulfillment comes from seeing the faces of the players when we are able to have win a conference title or win a regional title or win a tournament title, whatever it is. The looks on their faces makes it all the hard work and stuff like that makes it worthwhile.
Jay Hatch from Riverdale joining us right now. Coach, I talk to veteran coaches and, I ask them what's changed because you hear young people have changed and I'm around young people and there's still a lot of really good young people and the game hasn't changed either. Basketball is basketball. It's tweaked. I'm sure it's been different here and there and there's nuances to the game, but it's still, the same fundamentals, all that kind of stuff. Can you pinpoint what's the difference between girls basketball now to what it was like when you started 30 years ago?
Oh, there's a lot of those. I think probably the most significant one is when I first started coaching, we would have 25 kids come out for freshman basketball every year. We had to make cuts. Now they start playing travel teams in the crib, and they're playing 300 games. And so by the time you get to high school, you're lucky if you have 7 or 8 kids in a class. And, on one hand, that I suppose that could be good, that you're fine. But I think what happens is kids self-select a little too early. I'm not on the right AAU team, and so kids don't develop. You don't often see a lot of kids really get better in high school anymore because they've been, I shouldn't say get better, but get significantly better, like you used to see, because kids would now be having practice more often. They'd be playing more often. They'd get better skills just from repetitions. And sometimes players get here with bad habits that are really hard to break because they've been doing them for 10 years, literally 10 years. So as far as that goes, I think that's the biggest change I've seen. There's just not as many, and I think that's true in all sports. We start with travel teams and stuff like that so early that kids are dropping out before they really, in the old days, would have been starting. And then I think the game has changed a bit. I mean, the emphasis on the three-point line is definitely a massive change. It's still, I'm a get off my lawn type of guy, but it drives me nuts when you have a 3-on-1 and somebody stops at the three-point line for, waiting for a three. It's like, go get a layup. Those are always good. And I think there's sort of a trend in basketball, kind of at all levels, for a lot more one-on-one to initiate offenses rather than, passing the ball, setting screens, stuff like that. I don't really know why that is. It's not everybody does that, but it's a lot. But I would say the emphasis on the three-point line for sure. And another thing, and I don't even know why this is. It probably has to do with internet and computers and things like that. If you want to look up, basketball offenses or something, you can go down a rabbit hole on the internet for hours. But I don't really think – used to be that there was coaching clinics and coaches all went, and you sort of had a community with coaches. And that's not totally gone away, but it's – there's not as many people that do that, and so you don't really know the other coaches as well as you did. When I was first starting out, there were a bunch of really good coaches in the Western Big Six, and I was just trying to learn from them and try to figure out a way to maybe beat them once in a while. And I'm not sure we do that anymore either. I think that's probably a bad thing. I would say that we don't do that anymore.
Coach, how have you changed? And I should have mentioned off the top, Hall of Famer. I know you don't wear that as a title, but a Hall of Fame high school basketball coach. How have you changed in 30 years when it comes to being on the sidelines, being in practice? Just how has Jay Hatch evolved, I guess, in 30 years? Or have you?
Well, I hope I have. I've always been intense. That hasn't changed. I'm passionate about what I do. That's not changing. If that does change, that's the day I quit. But I think I try to be a little bit more in tune with what we're trying to do, with whether what we're trying to do really fits with our team, rather than, hey, this worked before, this should work again. And, sometimes that can be a major overhaul. Like you have a group of a team one year that can do certain things, and then those kids graduate, and then you have a group that really can't do those things. They can do other things. And so you have to figure out a way, how are we going to put this player in a situation where they can do what they're best at, rather than trying to fit them into a role that somebody else played. So I think that's something that's changed. It's and there's a lot. I think we try to set up a system where there's an opportunity for the players to be a little bit creative in terms of figuring out solutions, because the ultimate bottom line is when they're out on the court, there's really not a whole lot coaches can do to affect what's going on anyway. So you need to have gone through, put them in situations where they understand the principles we want to use, and then they're able to put those into play. And that's a it's a challenge in coaching, but it's also fun. It's kind of like I said earlier, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together.
Coach, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about, the development of your sport, of girls basketball, because obviously with Caitlin Clark and the University of Iowa and just the basketball in general, a lot more attention, rightfully so, has been put on girls basketball, women's basketball. And I've kind of said recently that it's always been really good. It's just the spotlight wasn't on it, and a few people have helped put the spotlight on a game that probably deserved more spotlight a long time ago. Is that a fair assessment? I know it's gotten probably better over the years. Probably different individual athletes can maybe do more things skill-wise than they used to 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. But in general, as a game, it's just getting a spotlight maybe it deserved a while ago. Is that a safe assessment, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say you're spot on. I think, it wasn't that long ago when you listened to talk radio, there was always somebody calling in about, I can't watch women's basketball, blah, blah, and, all of a sudden those same people are now, oh, yeah, I was always watching it. No, you weren't. But, you're never going to see a dunk in high school girls basketball. So, but I go to a lot of high school boys games. You don't see very many of those either. But what I think there's more depth, probably more good players than there used to be. But the great ones in the old days were just as good. I mean, some of these people that nobody's ever heard of. There was a kid who played at Richwoods named Nora Lewis that was unbelievable. And there was a lot of kids back in this, when girls basketball was just starting out. I grew up in Iowa, so girls basketball started in 1920. It was 3-on-3 and all that, but, so it was a different story. But I can remember being in 8th grade and going to watch a girls doubleheader in the postseason because two of the teams playing were averaging 90 points a game. And I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And, so, I mean, I think you're exactly right. It was always there. There's been kind of a narrative like the NBA, the old NBA guys, and it's kind of, I don't want those people like, back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s that were doing all these things, have kind of been forgotten, and they really don't deserve to be, because, the 96 women's Olympic team was unbelievable. Dawn Staley as a player was unbelievable. And she wasn't even the best player on that team. So I think you're exactly right. It's kind of always been there, but it was sort of a hidden gem. And, the traditions in Illinois high school, Moline and Rock Island have played 7 million games. Well, most of those were boys games. But, the same kind of rivalry exists in the girls' side as well.
Wrapping things up with Riverdale's Jay Hatch. Coach, what's the next step for your ladies? Obviously, we know you go to sectionals and all that. And you celebrated last night, rightfully so. I could tell you're back at work. Is it back at work for these ladies today and getting ready for 4 more days together at least, at another big game coming up next week?
Yeah, absolutely. We're playing Stillman Valley, who's ranked in the top 10 in state. They're really good. They knocked us out the last 2 years. They're really good. We're hopeful that in both games in the last 2 years, we've had stretches where we've done very well, and then we've had stretches where we were less than good. And we're going to try to figure out a way to make our good stretches last longer and our bad stretches be shorter. And that's not easy to do against quality teams because they have something to do with it. That's the part people don't realize. The other team practices too, and they have scouting reports, and they're trying to do things too. So that's what makes competing fun. You're not always going to just walk on the court and win by 100. And, sometimes you leave it all out there and you don't win. But it's about trying to figure out what you can do as a group to be successful and what you got to avoid. Some teams you can do things against and you try this against another team and it's not going to be a good thing. So that's what coaches really, that's really our job, try to figure out what we can do against this team and what we can't do against this team. And, sometimes you get in the game, you go, well, we got to try to do what we can't do. And sometimes that works out and oftentimes it doesn't. But that's the biggest thing. So, we're not going to have a long practice today, but we're going to have practice. We're going to practice, until Tuesday, and then head up to Rock Falls and see what we can get done. And hopefully we'll get the kind of crowd we had last night. It was great. We had a really good crowd, a lot of people there, and a lot of students, and that's fun for the girls as well.
Coach, I appreciate you doing this. I used to run over to whatever school you're at and interview you and run back and put 15 seconds of Jay Hatch on TV. So it was nice to chat with you for 20 minutes and kind of talk about the journey that you've been on. I'll say 17-time regional championship winner, but maybe I should say 13-time regional championship loser. I mean, there's always two ways.
That's what my wife tells me.
Exactly. Well, somebody's got to keep our egos in check. That's why we got married, I'm sure. So, Coach, I appreciate you. Best of luck next week, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, that is Jay Hatch, Riverdale girls head basketball coach. The Rams are regional championships for the third time in the 6 years that Coach has been out there. Well, coming up next, we'll stick with the ladies' theme here on a Friday. We'll go back to my alma mater and Jay Hatch's old school as well. We'll talk to a trio of Pioneer ladies who captured another regional championship yesterday as well. A lot more to get to. You're watching OTA on a Friday. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Friday here in the Quad Cities. It's a fun Friday to talk about girls basketball because a big night last night, regional championships handed out on the Illinois side of the river, and one of those teams that are regional champions once again, the Alleman Pioneers, and we're joined now by a trio of Alleman Pioneers skipping out on class to hang out with a former Alleman guy like myself. Adeline Voss, we'll go left to right. Adeline Voss, Megan Holke, and Carson Went join us. Ladies, first and foremost, thanks for doing this. I hope you guys didn't need that study hall to get any tests studied for, any homework done early, right?
No, we're good.
Okay, good deal. Regional champions once again. I'll start with the senior. I'll start with Carson. To be regional champions back to back. I know you've done it before, but each year's special. What was last night like, and how important is it to bring that plaque back to Alleman High School?
It's just really important for us and for the Alleman community to be able to do it back to back, especially like my freshman year, we had to have a play-in game, and now being able to do it back to back my junior and senior year is great.
to have the experience of last year, Megan, how important was that you've been in big games like this. You guys played a lot of big games, especially last year and this year as well. How much did that help this time around when it came to being in the big game with the spotlight on you guys?
Yeah, I think definitely last year helped like getting as far as we did last year. So I think we all were kind of prepared and like knew what we needed to prepare for. So I think that helped a lot.
Alleman, it was a familiar foe. Somebody you guys beat last year in regionals. You know a lot about them. They know a lot about you. How do you prepare for a game like that? Because it is familiar opponents and somebody that had plenty of motivation coming in against you guys as well.
Yeah. The first time we played them, I think we beat them by like 20. And then in practice, we just prepared for them and like we do with every team.
Yeah, and it was a successful night. Carson, this is your last go-around, so you never know when that game is going to be your last game. These two juniors, I mean, they still have pressure, but maybe not as much as a senior. What was it like to know that you get practice again tonight, practice over the weekend, and you get to prepare for more basketball, at least one more game, hopefully more than that?
Yeah, we always try to focus one game at a time. It's definitely the best to have my team with me, and I know they want to keep pushing, so then Lily and I can have our last game be a good one. So we just want to keep going as far as we can.
Yeah, last year was a lot of fun, and how far you ladies went. How much does last year's experiences help you guys, not just in games like that, but also, Megan, when it comes to where this program is? I mean, I don't want to say it's become expected, but Alleman girls basketball is back on the map, and you ladies all had a part in that. How exciting is that to know that expectations are a good thing, especially at Alleman High School?
Yeah, I think last year we did lose a lot of girls from our starting lineup and some of our subs. So I think it's really great that all of us can step up and like fill those roles that we needed to fill this year.
All right, Adeline, tell me about this team, because you said, you mentioned it is a different girls every year. You lose the seniors, but anytime you have success, the chemistry's got to be there. Adeline, what's this team like? What are these girls like, and what are they like off the court? Because I'm assuming, knowing some of you, there's a lot of fun to be had sometimes when it comes to off the court stuff as well.
Well, me personally, I have 2 cousins on this team, so we're pretty much like sisters all around. And I just think our chemistry is good because we are great friends off of the court as well. And that's just how we play together on the court too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking ahead, Carson, we talked about more practices and more games to be played. Last night, you celebrate, you enjoy it. What's today like, and what's this next weekend like? Because I don't think you're content. I think you guys want to keep playing as much basketball as possible.
Oh, we're definitely not content, and we want to keep focusing. We can't take anyone lightly. We have to focus at each practice, prepare, watch film. Got to do all the stuff to make sure that we can win the next game.
Megan, you talked about it because there was a bunch of really good seniors from last year's team that aren't there this year. A sister of yours, one of them, of course. To be able to pick things up where you guys left off, when did you feel this year that this team could be successful as well? Was there a moment, or did you guys have confidence coming in that you guys could continue what the team last year did as well?
Yeah, no, I think at the beginning of the season we knew like everyone needed to step up. Like we all had to fill new roles, and so I think we all knew from the beginning that we could do it and fill those roles this year.
All right, Adeline, you're only a junior, but you're already making milestones. I know 1,000 points happened earlier this year. I got yelled at from my family that I should have Adeline on the show now. She scored 1,000 points. And I said, let's let her win a regional again, then maybe we can get them on. To have that career milestone, and I know you got a lot more basketball to be played, and it's not about just milestones for you, but to have that and to do that already, what's it meant so far for you to have that success, especially so early in your career in high school?
I think 1,000 points was always a goal for me, even when I was younger. And to have a team like that to help me accomplish that is a great experience as well.
All right, some fun questions for you ladies. Let's say you have some time between games, practices, whatever. What's the place to go eat? Where are you guys, or after games? Where's the place the Alleman girls say, hey, we got to hit up this place to go eat? Carson, I'll start with you.
I think we go to B-dubs normally.
Yeah.
I think that's our go-to spot.
Have you ladies tried Al's right up the street yet?
Some of us have.
Yeah,
I think
I
some of us
haven't.
go in between practices or
Okay.
school.
And I haven't had it yet. My kids have. It's good, right?
what I've heard. I haven't had it
I
yet.
haven't tried it yet.
Okay, so why are you going in between practices and getting burgers and fries? That just seems like a horrible idea, Megan. You're smiling more than the other ones.
I mean, I don't know. I just
No, hey, you're young. You can do that kind of stuff when you're young. When you're an old fat guy like me, I mean, you can't do those kind of things. Who's the goofiest player, girl on the team? I don't want to say troublemaker, but who's gonna make people laugh the most? Who's the class clown, if you will, when it comes to this basketball team? You guys are all looking at each other like you know the answer.
We're thinking Lily or Nicole.
Yeah, Lily's our other senior, and she's just hilarious.
What kind of things are done or said, or any pranks done, or what makes her or this team fun? Don't get her in trouble.
Well, she's just very clumsy in general, I think. And then Nicole we play music before games, especially home games, and she loves to sing.
We all love singing.
Nicole knows every word to every song. Like, I swear.
I love it. I love it. When it comes to, if you ladies, and I guess I'll go with Megan in the middle. If you could have a dinner with one person, past, present, sports, not sports, who would it be and why? Da-na-na-na. Help her out. Somebody jump in.
I would say Mia Hamm, but that's soccer. So.
Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Adeline, I'll ask you, who's the best shooter in your family? And I know your dad well, so that's why I have to ask it.
Say him, but I would probably say me.
I cut you off there, so I want to make sure we hear that. So I'm going to be quiet. Who's the best shooter in your family?
I'll say me because I want to make my dad mad. So
I love it. One-on-one. Can you keep him in front of you? He's still like, he's my age and I'm an old fat guy and he's looks like he's still 20. Can you defend him?
Yeah, I can.
I love it. I love it. I hope he watches this. I make sure he sees this as well. All right, girls, before I let you go, because you guys got to go back to class and educate and all that kind of stuff. And how do you prepare? What do you know? Obviously, you don't know your opponent right now. Your opponent plays tonight, so you won't know what. So what's this next weekend like as you guys get ready to play some more basketball, Carson?
We're going to focus on film and try to know their offense and defense, figure out the ins and outs pretty much like every game.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, I appreciate you ladies doing this. More importantly, I think Coach Ford appreciates you guys doing this because he doesn't like doing stuff like this, I don't think. So you guys got him off the hook. You guys got out of a little class. Go back. And Carson, before I let you go, you're the second Carson I've had on the show. My Carson was the first one. And it's nice that people don't know this, but you guys have formed a fun friendship, which is crazy. Yeah. How did that even happen? Why is he such good friends with you? I don't get it.
I'm not really sure. I met him once and we bonded over the fact that our names are Carson. And then we always seem to find each other at the basketball games and then we just hang out. We're like best friends.
I love it. You ladies are all great to Carson. I have a sophomore niece up there, Emily Short, and you guys, every time he comes to a game or whatever, he just goes and hangs out in the student section with all the girls. He hangs out with more girls in high school than I ever did when I was in high school, and he's only 8, so he's already doing better than his old man. So, ladies, get back to class. I appreciate you guys doing this, and best of luck next week. Keep the good times going, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. That is the Alleman girls basketball team. 3 of the Pioneer standouts talking about a regional championship yesterday. And, of course, looking ahead to sectionals coming up next week. We got a lot more to get to on today's show. Coming up after the break, we're going to be joined by my good friend and sports director at Channel 4 here in the Quad Cities, Jay Kidwell, is in studio. We'll hang out. We'll talk a whole bunch of high school sports and a lot more. You're watching Off the Air on a Friday. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Friday here in the Quad Cities. Been a fun show so far. Obviously a big week and a big night of high school basketball yesterday on the girls' side of things. We want to thank Jay Hatch for joining us. I loved his perspective, not just on this season, but not to date him, but the veteran old head coach. Talking about 30 years of doing this and how girls basketball and girls sports have evolved over the last 30 years. That was a lot of fun. And then to be joined by three Alleman pioneers was a lot of fun for me, obviously being a pioneer myself. So those girls did a great job. Hopefully they're back in class learning and all that kind of stuff, but they were great to talk to. So if you missed those interviews, make sure you check them out. We want to thank everyone who's watching on YouTube and now on X. X has been good to me this week. The numbers are good. So we appreciate everyone who takes a little bit of their morning to check us out. And of course the show's on a podcasting platform as well, because if you don't want to look at me every day, I don't blame you. And so you can listen instead of look, but things got a lot better looking here in the old Randazzo estate, because The one and only Jay Kidwell is in the house to talk some sports with me. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'll tell you what, I don't think I've ever had an introduction quite like that before. but bravo to you. So you've got another Jay on. This is like the Jay show.
Yes, from Jay Hatch to Jay Kidwell and everywhere in between.
I've got 3 breaking news items on my way over here, and for me to have breaking news at any hour is amazing, much less in my fog zone of the morning. I don't know whether this is just me, but my tire light went on yet again. Does that ever happen to you?
Every winter.
Okay.
3 out of my 4 tires say they're too low right now.
Okay.
It's because it's negative 100 degrees.
Sure, the temperature fluctuation and this and I'm like, well, what would be a trip without having the tire light go on?
I'm that guy, and I don't know if you are, that drives my wife crazy, and I shouldn't do it in the wintertime the way I do. My dad, God rest his soul, would be so mad at me, but I let that light come on when the gas is too low. Do you remember the Seinfeld episode? Are you a Seinfeld guy?
Yes, love Seinfeld.
Where Kramer decided to test the needle to see when
yes.
So I did that in college with some buddies. We just kept going until we ran out of gas, and then we had a buddy behind us there to pick us up. We'd go get gas because we were idiots. But I don't trust those lights, man. Like, I should, but I don't trust them. If it says I have too low of gas, I'm going to grind it a little bit. If it says unless my tire's flat and I look and see it's flat, you're fine. You're good to go.
Well, then I don't feel the least bit anxious about driving home. Obviously, I've seen that thing a million times. My 73 Dodge Dart back in the day, the gas gauge didn't work in the car, so you just sort of had to chart like when you would get gas, so you'd know like how many miles before you.
Oh,
and of course,
had to have run out of gas then.
I absolutely did. Okay. After a movie in East Hartford, Connecticut, on a Friday night, ran out of gas on Silver Lane. So look at this; I can remember this insanity stuff. I can't
remember my kids' birthdays.
You can remember.
You can remember
running out of gas
back in the 1970s, the 1980s, whatever it was.
It was in the 70s. Knock on wood. No, it couldn't have been the 70s. No, I wouldn't have been old enough to drive. So early 80s. Yeah. But that was sort of the juggling act with the ever popular 73 Dodge Dart. But
I love it.
And the other thing I heard coming over on is Hooters is filing for bankruptcy. So people are in a frenzy about that.
Well, that opens up a whole different conversation.
I mean, that takes us to a new level.
That opens up a whole can of worms on where we can go with that one.
The best Hooters thing was we went there sometime when the kids were little. And,
which is good parenting.
Yeah, solid. I mean, I don't think I've been there in ages, which, I guess I'm a part of the problem here. But for whatever reason, we were there when the kids were little. And Emily, I think she's probably in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, elementary school. And, of course, that following week, they had like a list, fill out your favorite things and this, that, and the other. And, of course, one of the questions was your favorite restaurant. Of course, since we had just been to Hooters, she puts down Hooters. And we've got some.
And the good parenting is told to everybody.
Absolutely. Timing was great.
2 things come to my mind. First off, their wings are actually really good.
Yeah.
Like, they actually are very, very good. And then, like, I guess the thing when I hear that is, like, what's Pat Anger going to do for a living then?
Oh, my goodness.
If he can't work at Hooters, that's his side gig. You see him in one of those little Hooters,
sure.
I mean, woo, if that don't get you awake on a Friday afternoon, nothing will. Friday morning, nothing will. So
and the last breaking news item that was 2 and 3 is that the Yankees, I heard, are now going to allow beards on their players because back in the day, Steinbrenner would want clean-shaven players. Yankee guy.
And a legit one. Don't be like he's not a front runner or anything like that.
73 was first year. My dad took me to the original. That was the last year of the original Yankee Stadium, 1973. Cool. Saw the Oakland A's on a Sunday in August, and that sort of got me going with it. And I always remember that the Yankees lost that game. It was like 12-11 or something. Bobby Mercer called out on strikes, bottom of the 9th inning. But the rain was starting to come down. So we think pitch was not a strike, but we're thinking the umpire's just like, it's starting to rain. It's 12-11 or 13-12. We're out of here. The crazy part is my dad, we took the convertible from Connecticut down to the Bronx to the game.
Oh, no.
But we left, I have no concept as to how we would have done this. We left the roof open. So we just had the car parked with the roof down in the Bronx, and we're just going back to the car because it's now raining, pouring to get back. But anyhow, there's my Yankee sequence. Again, that's my breaking news for a Friday morning.
I love it. We need to do this almost every morning. We need to like dial Jay in and get breaking news about Hooters. I think is the important thing to talk about. I have Dan Birch on Wednesdays. Yeah. We call it Wild Man Wednesday. It's amazing how you guys, and you just did the same thing. Why are your memories like my memory's awful? And Dan will sit there and be like, yeah, back in 83, blah, 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 and Joey this, whatever. And then that team and and it's almost for me, and I think you might be the same way, the farther back it is, the more I remember it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I remember to put underwear on right now, today.
I think you look good.
I did. But I can remember like something that happened to me when I was like 14 years old.
Well, like the World Series, I could probably give you every World Series from like 72 to about 2003, 2004. But I probably couldn't give you the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, hey, who, like, the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year. Oh, it's not fair because it's easy to just say the Chiefs. But who won the World Series 2 years ago?
Well, obviously the Dodgers beat the Yankees this past year, and 2 years. I mean,
we're sports guys, Jay. I'm saying this to you as if I'm hoping that you get it correct.
Tyler's going to be absolutely horrified with me, my son.
He's amazing.
I'll have to think about it.
He'll remember everything.
I'll blame on my morning fog. He'll tell you. In fact, if you want some crazy entertainment, because he loves the Chargers.
I have to have Tyler on one of these
If
days.
you pulled up like the Chargers schedule and went to 2018 and said September 23rd, which is his birthday for whatever reason, I brought that up. What did the Chargers do? He'd tell you where they were and what the score was.
That's amazing.
It didn't have to be Dallas Stars is another one of his teams, but he would do that.
Brian Stocking's like that too. Brian will know, like, he'll remember like dates and like the games and like the scores of like, and high school wise. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I just wish I had that type of memory because, and what we do is like, you need those kind of things. I'm bad with names. Like if you're out and about and I'm like, hey, my man, like, I don't remember your name.
Texas Rangers beat the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Ah, there you go.
So, but now maybe the Braves the year before. But, we'll take a win with I think it was the Rangers 2 years ago.
I go back and I DVR all the Lions games. And I go back and I'll watch the good ones a lot. And, like, it's fun because I'll go back, like, 3 years ago and I'll start watching some and I don't remember. And it's amazing because I watch, like, literally if the Lions get a big win, I'll probably watch it 4 or 5 times during the week. It's my wife will walk in and be like, are you watching the dumb Lions game again? I'm like, yeah, I am. Leave me alone.
Well, you've got a lot of great Lions games.
I'm folding laundry while I do it. Just let me do what I want to do. So, but like I still struggle with like remembering. So that's I'm a huge Office guy. I love The Office, and recently I've been to watch same thing with Seinfeld. Like you remember them as you watch them, but it's almost like they're new episodes because you hadn't seen them in so long. So that's the beauty thing about it.
Your Lions, I mean, what a great story they've been. Obviously, the injuries really caught up with them, and I mean, but man, talk about an exciting, fun team.
How are you?
And their overs at Ford Field are absolutely perfect.
Yeah, no,
they are a absolute scoring machine.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great season. Obviously, not the way we wanted to end it, and 15-2 though I'll take.
Oh,
so 15-3. Like if I got to watch 18 Lions games and I won 15, they won 15 of them. That's a good thing. But like I'm a big proponent. Like everybody talks about the windows closing, but like think about like what the Bills window hasn't closed.
Right.
The Ravens window hasn't closed. The Eagles window hasn't closed. If you do it correctly, the Steelers window's been open for my entire life. I feel like so. Like I feel like if you do things correctly, there's gonna be some lulls and maybe some down years. But like if you do it correctly and you build it correctly, you can sustain. Obviously, like I don't want them to waste any windows anymore. But you mentioned the injuries for them. Like I kind of knew big picture because you saw the Buffalo game during the year that they were going to have to outscore everybody because the defense was so decimated. But hey, that's the beauty part is they get back, they get healthy, and all those kind of things.
And Campbell is just such a breath of fresh air. Just so there he is. I mean, just as genuine, and I mean, how can you not root for that guy? I mean, I'm a 49ers fan, and we certainly had our problems of injuries this year, but actually, I mean, I think I talked to you, obviously when they played in the NFC Championship, like of all, like, oh boy, really, we got to knock out the Lions? I mean, I'm like, oh really? Like, I feel like the absolute Scrooge in this one.
I'm
but
a big fan of like, if my team can't win, I don't want to know anybody else that did. I was actually kind of rooting for the Chiefs this year, which is ridiculous. But like, I don't know any Chiefs fans, and if I do know a Chiefs fan, they're probably not a Chiefs fan. They're probably just the guy who started liking the Chiefs recently. My brother-in-law and my nieces, or two of them. One of them, Molly, is a Lions fan. She's my favorite, but they're huge Eagles fans. And like, yes, I should want my nieces and my brother-in-law, who I adore. I love my brother-in-law. I should want them to be happy. I don't want to see anybody else happy if I can't be happy. It's really, really. And how weird is it that my bobbleheads are you got Dan Campbell, like tough guy, and then you have Don Umland,
yes,
and Pat Anger. Like, what a weird grouping of like tough guy, weird guy. God only knows what we're going to talk about, Pat. So I got to like mix up a little bit and I got some golfers.
That is some really good stuff there.
How is it's a busy time of year for you? That's why it's awesome for you to come out and join me today, because like I love catching up with you. And this is kind of like I love doing the interviews, the stuff that we do when it comes to interviews, and Pat on certain days and Dan on certain days and all that kind of stuff. But part of this show, I just want to talk, like just to talk sports or just to talk breaking news and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun to have somebody here that you can banter with and kind of talk with, but it's busy for you right now. I know it. I lived it.
I would say, and see if you agree, I would say arguably this is the busiest time of the year, namely with basketball, with everything. It's virtually every single day of the week. Yeah. Obviously, November, the football playoffs, but that's one gets like Fridays and Saturdays for the most part. Yeah. And obviously you get the volleyball and other things mixed in there as well, but this is just pretty much nonstop. I mean,
both sides of the river, guys and girls.
I was aiming to go to Iowa City to see the Hawkeyes tomorrow, but that's at 3:00. But I got to be in Maquoketa at 7:00 tomorrow night.
Oh yeah,
because it's the Saturday night stuff. So I got the Maquoketa DeWitt run tomorrow.
I can remember these.
And you remember those 7:00 starts, because that goes fast. Like game 2, you can get there, and they're like halfway through the third quarter.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where you tell your producers, I don't need a lot of time at 6.
Right.
But at 10:00, I need your whole show.
Sure.
Because like you're gonna have those girls starting up, and then it's state wrestling in Illinois and Iowa. Yep. So I remember it would usually be Cuff would go one way, whoever it would be, Camille, Celia, Jenna, whoever would go the other way, and then like I would get those games in between, and they're all start at 7:00, and you want to hit the ones you want to hit. So I'm assuming PV's at home. I'm assuming Davenport North's at home.
Yep.
I'm assuming Bettendorf.
They're on the road.
They
so
got
that
a terrible draw.
Yeah.
But then Central DeWitt and Maquoketa both at home.
Correct. Yeah.
So
sorry for Bettendorf, but it does help. I mean,
if we had Ryan Weber.
Yeah. I mean, it's
win and we'll get you.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Good luck. Go get them.
Every year I would always, and I do now because I'm still doing stuff with high schools and stuff. You start following a team and you start like, really appreciating what they do. I think this year for me, the Sterling girls won a regional championship. They won a Western Big Six championship for the first time ever. Like watching them, talking with Taylor Jackson, really I'm rooting. Like I root for all of them, but I'm really rooting to see what they do. And then on the other side, Central DeWitt, that girls basketball team wasn't supposed to be. Everybody talked about PV and North and all that, even Bettendorf to an extent, and nobody really talked about Central DeWitt, and they win a MAC championship. All of them can do good things in the postseason, but is there a team that you've kind of been like, boys, girls, whatever, that's been like, I've really liked watching what they've done this year? This has kind of been fun.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, right now, just because of this week, in the past couple of weeks, and this is just very knee-jerk reaction, but the Monmouth Roseville girls team, because we were getting them in the regionals. We had gotten them a couple times earlier during the year, not as much as obviously we would like to, but we've gotten them a few times. But Coach Weber is, we just found out, I found out, I didn't know until recently, but this is his last year coaching, and he's been there apparently for a good chunk of change.
Coach Weber down at Monmouth
in Monmouth Roseville.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Scott Weber.
Yeah.
So he's on his way out, and then he's just apparently after the interviews last night, the girls were saying how they felt good at practice. Sherrard had beaten them twice in the regular season, and then they were out like 18-2, 18-4 last night. Sherrard came back, actually took a lead in the second half. So what an incredible effort by them. Monmouth Roseville prevailed. They won the game. But then the girls were like, we do not want coach's season to end. Like, we're going to do everything we can. So that's sort of a feel-good thing there to see what they can do for the coach on his finale. But, yeah, Sterling, good for them. I mean, fun stuff. And that's such a great place to go up for games, whatever the sport.
Yes.
We got a lot of great spots.
But think about Sterling, and it was cool because I think when I had Taylor Jackson on Tuesday, all the days run together. I think it was Tuesday. And, people know that I'm done with WQAD, and I started this, that are in my little world of Twitter that if 10,000, 8,000, 9,000, that's not bragging. It's just my followers, whatever. That's people know that, but not everybody knows where I went. And so to have Taylor on, and I got a lot of feedback from Sterling because oh, we knew you left, we didn't know you were doing this, so that was fun. But you talk about that community, and whether it's football, whether it's boys basketball, and Coach Vasquez does a great job. Volleyball is amazing, and they have been really good, and they had some really good years and some really good runs at it. Girls basketball now do it, and they. Told Coach Jackson on the interview, you go to that football stadium and you walk up and you're like, I might be at a D3 college.
Yep.
Like this, the columns and the backdrop, and then same thing with Musgrove Fieldhouse. You walk in there, you're like, this could be a D3 college, a D2 college. Really cool atmosphere up at Sterling.
Fantastic facilities, great atmosphere. On the football side, that's part of what we would say I would love about the playoff time is on those Saturdays. That's the time I can get up to Sterling. On the Friday nights, I can't get up to Sterling. I mean, we'll have other people get up there,
That's
but
what
I can't
said to
get up
Princeton.
there.
I had Noah Laporte on this week, and I said, I loved going to Princeton
Yep.
because that would be my Saturday swing.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I loved the Myrtle's pies just as much as like going to the games, and that wasn't always healthy for me at that time. But and especially when you're going into the fall and winter, it's just I felt that's my decline into like eating and hibernating and all that kind of stuff. But
do you remember the Sterling at the football field, the old turf where you're almost like sinking in the sand and the gravel or whatever? I mean, obviously going back, years and years.
Yeah.
But no, just fun times up there and just the atmosphere up there. So yeah, that'll be fun. I think they're up to Rockford now for sectionals. So we'll just see how they do.
Do you equate like I just did with Myrtle's pies, and I think we kind of do because like I equate like where I'm going with what I might get to eat. Like remember, and you would know because Tyler and you and I hung out at a Portillo's one time after a Geneseo game up
Many
in the
times,
Chicagoland area, just to and like. Is it wrong? I mean, I love going to Kiwani because when you go to Kiwani, they're going to find you and they're going to give you a ticket and you're going to get yourself an amazing pork chop sandwich and a drink. And yes, I can be bought. Give me a pork chop sandwich and I'm good. But like, I always think to be like on a Saturday, especially like, hey, my kids would go with me so often. And Tyler sometimes would go with you when he was younger. It's crazy how old they've all gotten. But I remember Tyler when he was my kid's age going around with you. And you equate that with like, I'll say to one of my boys, hey, do you want to go with me to, Princeton and we're going to hit up this and then go here and then go to the game. Like we unfortunately equate food with what we do for a living sometimes.
Well, it's part of the fun and, you're out there doing stuff and love going. That's the thing that I really enjoyed about the Saturday stuff is that I would be able to break out of the norm. We get to places that I normally don't get to. Obviously on a Monday through Friday, I've got to be back to the station quicker and get the tie on and all of that stuff. So it doesn't give me the opportunity to go as far out. But that's the fun part on the Saturdays is you get to maneuver around and then have the nice meals wherever.
Every time
and Kiwani, I mean with those tickets, I think Nick was wrestling that one away from somebody because he's like, oh yeah, I want to get down there.
I'll have people on a Friday night football. They'll be like, oh sweet,
I got Kiwani.
Will be like, can I go to Kiwani? I'd love the Kiwani swing. I'll start at Wethersfield, get some touchdowns, go over to Kiwani, get some dinner, and come on back. No, and it is funny. Like every time I'd see Tyler, he'd be like, "What was dinner tonight?"
Yeah.
Because like we would equate like what we're eating and what we're doing, that's the good and bad of what we did or what I did and what you still do. Because sometimes it's good, but sometimes you're doing it at like 10 o'clock at night, 10:45, 11 o'clock at night when you have a crazy busy Friday like we've had so often. Throughout the years. One of the reasons why I had you on this week was, and he reminded me of it, is I had Glenn Cook on Tuesday. And like he mentioned your name along with everybody else's that do what we do and did and all that kind of stuff. Glenn's going to call his last PA game after 51 years and talk about, and I know you've ran across him many times, talk about a gentleman, like somebody that you love just to sit with and talk. I jokingly said at the beginning of the show that like, my Glenn Cook episode has been good business. Like you love Glenn Cook. He does things the right way. He's old school sports. Just when you hear about like Glenn Cook, 51 years of being a PA guy, he's Mr. Rockridge. What comes to mind?
Oh, Mr. Rockridge. That says it right there. Just his approach and the way he announces, and it just makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel at home. He's sort of the epitome of everything that's good with high school athletics. Just terrific. And then at the football games, he'll start naming off the officials out there. I haven't seen Joe in a while. He's down there today. I mean,
he'd name you or me off. Like we'd be there and he'd be like, hey, Jay Kidwell is here. Matt Randazzo's here. Check out their highlights tonight on blah, blah, blah. Little things like that are kind of fun.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's just a wonderful man. I mean, he's actually one that I could tell Nick or something for our Sunday show. I mean, literally could have him come in and he would take the whole half hour.
He did an hour here.
Yeah.
He did
easily.
Full hour without blinking. And we could do more. I mean, we could have gone till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And in fact, we did, because when we got done with the show, we went down to the kitchen and I think he sat there till 1 o'clock with me, hanging out and chatting sports. He's one of the good ones. And that, like tonight's going to be an emotional night for him at Rockridge.
He's good with, I mean, obviously he's done 51 years.
Yeah.
But he's at peace with the transition and moving out. I'm sure the first next game that he's not doing, there might be a little bit of but he'll be fine. He's done a great he deserves to have his time.
84 years young. And he's so worried tonight about like taking away. That's just Glenn. He's so worried about tonight because it's senior night. And he's so worried about taking away from the seniors because it should be about them and not about him. And obviously, when you do something for 51 years, it should be about you, Glenn. So, no, it should. And the best part, I told him on Tuesday, Glenn, you ain't going anywhere. Like, you're still going to be out there. You're still going to be going to the games. You're still going to be around. It's just that you're not going to have to deal with the microphone in your face and all that kind of stuff all the time. No, he's literally one of the best there is.
Yeah, I mean, it does the baseball because there's times when we're out there at the softball sometimes because we tend to get the softball had such a run that we're on that side. But you'd hear him behind us with the baseball stuff.
I think he told me he might still do baseball. Why do I think that? He may have told me when he was done. He might. I don't know. The big thing for him is like day and night. Like and his eyes aren't as good as what they used to be, so driving at night is tough and all that kind of stuff. So don't.
So daytime sports possible.
He might be doing some, but like he's going to stay involved. It was great. He asked me. He's like, "Can I call into this?" I said, "Well, it's not a call-in show because he remembers the old K-Jack days and the old sports radio days." He's like, "But I go, anytime you want to come on out, it was cool. This is where I live. My neighborhood used to be part of his farm." So he like grew up on this farm and owned this farm and all this kind of stuff. Not a farm anymore. It's a little neighborhood and stuff. So yeah, he's one of the best in the business. So I got more to talk to you about because did you watch any hockey last night?
I did, but I was also running around. But then I pulled it up on my phone when I got back. If you can believe it, we don't have cable at the station these days. Mediacom has this deal where they want to have a box with every TV set. So at the moment, we're sort of at an impasse. So right now, the only TV I have is basically if you had an antenna.
What TV do you have at home?
That's it. That's at work. So at work,
at home,
I've got DirecTV and YouTube TV at work. At home.
YouTube TV, you can just pull it up on the YouTube's the where it's at if you're watching on YouTube. But YouTube is where it's at. So we're going to hit a quick break, and then we're going to come back talking with the one and only Jay Kidwell here on a Friday. It is Friday. The beauty part for me, Jay, is I can start like thinking about the weekend and stuff. You got a long night of work to do, so I feel bad for you, but I can continue to do all this kind of stuff. So we'll be right back after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Friday here in the Quad Cities. Joined in studio, I like to say studio, joined in loft by my good friend.
In studio. This is a nice studio.
I added a TV.
Yeah. No, this is.
So like
you're looking good.
Nobody sees this, but there's one behind the cameras that like shows us, so I can like see what's going on and making sure I'm not doing anything right. But that's just it's like a monitor. Like it doesn't. It's not a smart TV, and we have YouTube TV, so I couldn't watch TV up here, and I'm up here a lot. And so I told my wife, I'm like, and it's crazy. TVs are like cheap as cheap can be. It's crazy. So I'm like, I'm gonna get another TV to put next to it just so that I can, while I'm up here working and stuff, I can watch TV.
I think I spent like over $3,000 on one of those TVs way back when. I mean, and then I think probably within a year they had come down dramatically. I'm like, boy, I really picked the wrong time to do that.
Our first big purchase when we got married, and oh man, I got to think, 2008. So that's a long time ago. God, I'm old. And
look at that. You remember that.
I can't fathom that she's been with me for since. God bless Jen. Like, what does Anger always say? Women like a project. And so that explains me, I guess. But so I remember, it was we got a house. It was our big first purchase, and it was $2,500. I mean, it was like we spent a good amount of money on this TV down in the basement. Full disclosure, Anger gives me a hard time about it, but I have a TV wall, and it's got a 70-inch maybe ish, like in the middle, and then we have 43, 43, 43, and 43. So it's 5 TVs. It's glorious. It is what it sounds like. And but like everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's got to be. It wasn't like the 43 inches. We got it like on a Black Friday sale. They're like $200 each.
Right.
So like 800, and then like I think the middle one was like. So anyways, maybe $1,500 for all of that. And I go back to, like you just said, like I go back to that first purchase when we were in 2008, and I'm like, all right, I think we're going to pull the trigger on this $2,000 TV. And now it's $500 less to get all those TVs. So, jeez,
I got it for $3,000. What was I thinking?
Right? I know. But hey, we were talking during the break, and high school sports wise, there's a lot of focus on the girls and regionals, and last night was big and a lot of fun. But they wrapped up MAC play last night. I hated this Friday because the girls all played on Thursday, and then the MAC all played on Thursday. And I don't think there's a lot of Western Big Six tonight either.
It's very scant. There's very little.
Yeah,
Rockridge and Princeton. Sterling's at Princeton tonight, and Rockridge.
IVC or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Friday basketball show. Everything was Thursday.
Yeah.
Like you should have your show last night.
Well, I actually told him, I said our Friday is Thursday this week. So tonight we're sort of scaled down. I'm not gonna close out the show and all of that type of thing.
Wow, that's
so yeah, last night I think we had like, I don't know, 10 or 11 minutes or whatever. So
God bless you.
I'll tell you, Eric, our news director, I'll tip my hat to him. He is great. I mean, we had myself, Nick, Blake, Tyler, and Cologne out shooting last night. Which, I mean, there are days when it would used to be like me and the weekend guy.
I've seen your news director grab a camera and go shoot.
Yep. No, Eric, he's a go-getter. He's all on board with.
Listen to this kiss.
You know,
do me a favor. Pull your microphone down just a little bit.
I will.
Just so we can see your face a little bit.
I will.
There he is.
Boy, you really want to see this?
There's that handsome devil.
All right, here we go.
I got mine right by my face anyway. Nobody's watching anyway.
Look at me, Mr. TV savvy. I'm sitting there. Got this thing.
Like I said, people should be listening, and if they want, they should really watch listen to podcasts, because nobody needs to see us. But no, like that's a cool thing to be. Listen to you kiss up.
Well, as you know, over the years, you really appreciate the management when they've got your back, because I've had times where it's a
roller coaster ride.
It's sometimes not quite as much, but right now they're in with us, and
that's awesome.
And I will say there are times, when it happens, when you get emails from people thanking for this, that, or the other, it goes a long way, and it makes management think we're on the right path. Like, this is time well spent. So I just. If people say something to me, it sort of goes back to something my mom said to me ages ago. Like, if you're out to the restaurant, you have great service, always, tell the server, boy, A+, thank you, great service, great meal. But she's like, go tell the manager, because it's nice to tell her, but tell the boss. And so I do that, and I don't do it all the time, obviously, but when it's warranted, I'll do it. And it's kind of funny because the manager always come over like, oh boy, like, what is happening? What are we getting into? I'm like, I want to tell you that Sarah did a fantastic job, and the service was great, the food was great. Just your team did an outstanding job, and
Well, and you know what it's like. You get an email from a viewer, and you're usually like, oh gosh, what are they going to complain about? Because to every, I don't know what it is, I should keep track, but it seemed like for every 20 emails you got about complaint, I shouldn't say maybe that much, but every 5 emails you got about a complaint, you finally get one and it means more, because it's very simple to get in front of one of these computers and complain about something. Yep. But it's not. It takes a lot of motivation to get down and say, "Hey, I appreciate you guys doing what you do," because, as you know, and I think people kind of know now, that like it's controlled chaos. It's crazy as can be, and if you miss something, it's not because you're just sitting back in your office with your feet up going, "I don't want to do something." It's because there's a ton of stuff going on. And we used to count the DMA. I don't know what it is now, but I think it's 70-some schools that technically watch the Quad City area and stuff like that. So it's like you can't. Then you just mentioned and that's a lot to get 7 people out there shooting or whatever. 5, 6, 7 is good.
I will say this to throw this into the mix. Since we inherited the Fox 18 show some time ago, last night was a half-hour show. So my sports last night was at 9:15 versus 9:40.
That's good.
So that
it's earlier though.
It's earlier, so
Yeah.
it makes it. The juggling act gets a little bit more insane, but
you took that from us, and I remember I said, "God bless." I won't make you say anything or whatever, but I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you got, I get you," but that's just more work. You didn't get doubled the salary when you start. I didn't. I don't know what Jay did.
No,
but
it didn't.
You didn't get doubled the salary, but it's part of the game, and I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I will say, this area, and I think there's a lot of people, namely at the banquets, will hear this from the coaches and folks, parents, what have you. This market, 4, 6, and 8. I mean, the work that the stations do around here for high school. I mean, we're not in Chicago where we're sitting back there doing Bulls, Blackhawks, and a birdie putt on at the Genesis Open or something. This market, everyone's everywhere, and 6 and 8. You guys make us work harder because we're trying to stay with the program.
We always understand the game because we're all in the game together.
We're all in the game
I think
together.
That's the cool thing is we all respect it and understand it. I do have to mention because you mentioned good service at a restaurant. How was your service at the Machine Shed on Sunday?
Were you up? Did I miss you?
No, I loved your reaction. I didn't get to go, but my in-laws' birthdays were both in the last couple weeks. So my wife said to me on Sunday, "Hey, do you mind wanting to take out my mom and dad for dinner?" We had like a kids basketball game till like 6 or whatever. And I said, I got to run home and do an interview. I think I had Jess Settles lined up for the next day, but believe it or not, sometimes these interviews aren't live. This is as live as can be, but sometimes like I record stuff ahead of time. And so I had that and somebody else. Maybe it was Noah Laporte. That was my Monday show. So like I had them lined up the day before. So I'm like, I can't go. And then like my son got home and he's like, "Dad, the Kidwells were there." I go, "Did you say hi?" He goes, "No, they weren't close enough to us." I'm like, how'd you know they were there? He goes, "I heard Tyler right away." The Kidwells are boisterous people. They like to. So
Tyler
was it good, though?
It was fantastic.
I love Machine Shed.
I have not been there in a long time, and actually met a guy who, this guy Mark, who of all things, a friend that I've met at the Y over the years, and then conversations mostly in the sauna because at that point we're
no big deal. Jay works out a lot. No big deal.
Well,
just saying.
I mean, good grief! It looks like I really need to do some more.
My computer's perfectly strategically placed right where it needs to be. It's like my fat pillow. When you sit on the couch and you grab that pillow to put over your tummy, that's what I do. But yeah, so I said, I go, you should have. He would have loved it if you said
absolutely.
Hi.
I'm sorry I didn't.
The crossing, whatever. And I was going to mention something to you, and then when you started talking about being at a restaurant, I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw this at you. I love the reaction. I'm stalking you.
That was fantastic.
Wherever you go, I go. Like we stalk each other.
No, that was that's a fantastic spot. Great meal. No, I wish we'd said hello.
I wish I would have gone. That's why I said to Charlie, like, because like. And God bless Jess, but like we were going to do an interview at one point and then like, and it was weird because he had the Northwestern game at 2 and he's like, "How does 7:30 sound?" I said, "Perfect." And then I was like, 2, you get done. And I'm like, does he go back to, now he lives in Pella. I thought he lived in Winfield Mount Union where I just assumed that's where he's still farming. And so I had texted him, "Hey, I'm close to being on my way home. Like should be good for 7:30. And I didn't hear from him until about 8:45. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I got caught in a dinner meet." Totally get it. But then I was just like, darn it, I missed my window to like, I could have gone out to dinner and I can always,
You'll be back. You'll be there.
And I do enjoy Iowa Machine Shed. We go there for Easter. My mom used to cook, and now we just get to the point where, like, Mom, instead of worrying about cooking, why don't we just all go out to dinner? And, like, it's the family share. Like, you get the sides you share and all that kind of stuff. You're making me
Have you been there for breakfast?
No.
I'm such a late, if I'm up by 10:30, it's sort of that's sort of my – I sleep like 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. is sort of my window.
Yeah.
So I've never been there for breakfast, but I've heard that breakfast is just outstanding.
I love going places for breakfast. If there's a place that serves breakfast all day long. I mentioned it with the Alleman girls. Have you eaten at Al's in Al's Burgers in Rock Island?
I have not.
You know where La Rancherita is in Rock Island, right by Alleman?
Okay. Yeah.
Like literally, like you can, if you're seeing in the Alleman parking lot there, if you look across the street, caddy corner next to La Ranch it's Al's Burgers.
Okay.
There's smash burgers, fries, milkshakes, chicken. I mean, very, very small little place. My kids love it. everybody I talk to over in the community. My oldest Charlie will be like, hey, between school and practice, we're going to run over to Owls. I'm like, why would you go get a burger and fries before you practice? But I guess that's why they're 15 and we're
Charlie knows what he's doing. There's no reason for parents to intervene.
When it comes to food, he knows what he's doing.
Yes.
So,
yep.
We were talking in the break too. A cool thing we were talking. So yeah, with a lot of girls basketball last night, but a lot of guys basketball that kind of got not swept under the rug because you got stuff, but there's a lot to get to. And on a night like Friday night, if there was on a Friday night, the Clinton boys basketball team beat Davenport Central. Good win for them. It snapped a 66-game losing streak. It's an awesome thing to hear. And like, of course, when you say you're like, oh man, they lost 66 straight games. Well, they haven't now. And so you have to celebrate that. And Davenport Central is a good basketball team. So they must be doing something right. I just wanted to give them some love. When you hear stuff like that, like that's the beauty of high school sports. I bet you that place, great environment, great gym up there. It had to be electric to get a victory and do that.
Boy, that is just, again, not that we're necessarily rooting for A, B, C, D, but nobody wants to see a team lose a 67th game in a row. Yeah. Whoever they were playing, fantastic. Those guys are out there, and there's teams, obviously, over the years in whatever sport that have streaks like that. Not necessarily like that, but, long streaks or just tough seasons. There's been times where some teams are in single digits for basketball games for multiple final scores. Yeah. And you know what? Those kids are at practice. Those kids are working. And to go out there on a Friday night or Tuesday or whatever night and go out there and compete when you probably know we're going to end up getting our heads handed to us. But they're out there. Takes guts, takes courage, takes, a lot of determination to go out there and do it. Maybe the results aren't there, but, last night the results were there. So congratulations to Clinton. That is really good to hear.
And that's the thing too, is you're representing your school and you're playing the game you love that you grew up loving, and you're not going to win every game, and nobody likes to see programs go through that kind of stuff. No. But those kids are going back to practice every day. They're busting their humps off, and to see something like that, I thought that was really cool. I've tried to reach out to Marty Daniels. I tried to find his. It's one of the few coaches I didn't have their cell phones to, and actually reached out to some other MAC coaches to see if they had them, and I hadn't heard back from some of them. So maybe next week I can effort to get Marty on the phone. But it's also to a point too where sometimes I remember Alleman snapped a long losing streak in the Western Big Six only, and they beat Quincy. It was in the Pat Rangel era, and while it was awesome and it was everyone was excited and they won a regional that year and they had a great year. You're also it does bring light to the fact that you'd lost. It brings you talk about the losing streak with it. So, but good on them.
But think of that. Think of those guys last night. Think of those players, that coaching staff last night. They left the court with a win. Yeah, and they could go home and feel good, and something that they haven't been able to do
in their last game
for
of the
years.
Year, they'll have a postseason game coming up, but I'm assuming was that the last night of Western?
Yep.
Because they play it the week earlier, so they started. It's crazy how fast stuff goes.
Oh,
I felt like we just started the season a little bit ago, and now my oldest had his. Well, he's got one more game over the weekend, but and my youngest that are playing their feeder stuff, it's you look outside. I'm looking out the window right now, and it's snowy and cold and nasty, and baseball season starts.
Sure.
And I love baseball. I got kids that play baseball, softball, all the spring sports. But isn't that it's you get done with the NCAA tournament and all that kind of stuff, and then you look outside and it's it's going to be 32 degrees, and there's going to be some softball game you're going to have to go get. And God bless softball, baseball, all this. I
get it.
Those were the ones that I'm just please score quickly. Give me something quick so I can get back in my car and go home.
5-run first inning sounds good.
Oh, wouldn't it be good?
But as you know, this time of year, because you've lived it, we're going 130 miles an hour. But in a couple of weeks, it goes from 130 to about 17 miles an hour. Yeah. Everything just, whether you win a state title or not, it thins down, and then it dramatically drops off, and then you're off to a spring sport outside, and could be 41 in flurries, and you're
a white balance, and you're wait a minute.
I'll do it on the snow.
The sun's coming, it's sunny, and then it's cloudy again, and I wish I was back indoors where I knew what the lighting was going to be, all those kind of things. When it comes to March Madness, so I was probably talking to my wife the other day, and we would always plan on is Iowa good? Are they going to the NCAA tournament? Is Illinois? We might got to keep an eye on them. The Iowa women have been a beast for the last couple of years, and you knew you had to go get those. And there were some years, I remember the one year with Camille Camille. Corey did Iowa City with the Iowa women, and that's the year they lost in the Sweet 16 to Creighton. Yep. So he jinxed them on that one. But I was in Buffalo for the Iowa men. They had just won the NCAA, the Big Ten tournament, and they lost right away. But I was there, and then Camille was in Pittsburgh with the Illinois men. And like it was fun just to look at and say, this is what we're doing and going. And but the blessing of it, and I always talk about it with like being an Iowa fan. Like there were times, and Dan Birch always told me when I was younger, like there's gonna be times that you root against Iowa. I never rooted against Iowa, but I saw what he meant because while they went to Buffalo and like when they lost that game to Richmond, like the 12-year-old Iowa fan inside of me would have been devastated. And like I wanted him to win. I thought to myself, well, I can go home tomorrow and I'll be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll take Monday off as a day off. I don't have to travel again next weekend. So like there were the plus side, the silver lining of it was I looked at this year and the Iowa women are good, but they're not going to be at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Who knows where they end up going to and stuff like that. And they'll most likely be an 8, a 7 seed, and they're going to run into an elite team in the second round, a 1 seed, 2 seed at their place. They can win those games. They've proven it with USC, but it's not that, boy, you knew last year. It's like, okay, we have our ticket with them. The Iowa men aren't going to make the NCAA tournament unless they do something crazy in the Big Ten tournament, if they make the Big Ten tournament. And the Illinois men have kind of like fallen off. How about this? I wanted to ask you about, how about Shauna Green and the Illini women? She's the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Yep, another Clinton success story. You are absolutely nailing Clinton today. Got to get what is it? Chicken George is a sponsor. Yes. Roshelli's Pizza, please. There you go. There's another really good one up there. Oh no, I mean food. The two of us. Yeah, that's it. Right, we just segue right back to the food. Yeah. Oh no, the Illinois women. I mean, she has done just an incredible job. I think 4 years in a row now, 20+ wins. Yeah. I believe that's where we're at. If my memory serves. But just what an incredible job. They lost last night at UCLA, but I mean that's lost a ton of players. They're down to 6 girls. Yeah. And they continue to win, and they weren't picked to do what they were supposed to do, and she just keeps winning. And like the fans are starting to come out there too. They had like 7,000 the other night, which is great. Yep. And all of that kind of stuff. So have you ever talked to? I have not. There was a and I banged our champagne. You know how that goes. I bang this drum all the time because like, do you remember? 2-3 years ago, the Illini Caravan actually came back to the Quad Cities, and it was Brett Bielema, and it was out of the Bend. Yep. Brett Bielema was out there, and Shauna Green was out there. So like I interviewed both, and that's when I met Shauna for the first time. I've called the University of Illinois to get like a signed football for Brett Bielema for my dad's golf outing. Yep. And when I get it, along with it comes like signed stuff from Shauna Green with a note that said, "Hey Matt, I heard about your dad's event. I think it's really cool. I figured I decided to donate this. Hopefully it can help you out." That's class. That? That's when class. I sat there and talked with her, super charismatic. I'm excited. Hopefully they go a long way, but as soon as the season gets over with, I'm going to try to pin her down to come on the show as well. I know she's a little busy to come on some YouTube show in the Quad Cities right now, but and understandably so. But I'm just blown away with what she does. Your thoughts on the Iowa women this year, because it's a different vibe, but everyone said the crowds will go away and all that kind of stuff. They're selling out game number 34 in a row. Yeah, I think tomorrow. It's been awesome what they've done. Yeah, they've got UCLA rolling in on Sunday afternoon, and that should be something. Now, Lucy Olson has been just something special to watch. That team continues to do it. Coach Jensen, there's obviously going to be a drop down when you lose Caitlin Clark. When Babe Ruth has left your program, you are going to have you're going to come down a notch. Yeah. But it's taken. They've got their footing. They're doing fine. It's not like they're getting smoked in any game. The games that they've lost, that game against Ohio State on Monday was just off the charts. Yeah. How they come like storming back. Tournament game, because here I am at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, oh sweet, there's basketball on. This is great. So. Well, I was at the Y on Monday, because he works out, no big deal. Again, he works out. It's creature of habit, but I get you. There are few things. I was on the bench at that time, believe it or not, but TV had the game on, and it's one of the few times where literally 4 or 5 people were around the TV watching that final few minutes and then into overtime of that game. And I mean, there could be stuff on there. I mean, obviously not many weekday middays are the games that people are gonna get wrapped up in. But I don't think I'd ever seen that. Even on a Saturday, if I'm there on a Saturday, there's games going on. But people literally were dialed in. No, the interest level is certainly there. No, there's something else. I wouldn't be surprised to see them They can
make some
16.
heads.
They
yeah,
can make a Sweet 16 if they got to pull an upset in round 2, but they've proven they can do that. It's going to be on the road, which will make it tough. And I talk about this topic knowing that like what you do for a living, like I feel like I can be more opinionated now, and I don't want to be overly opinionated and critical because I still work with universities and getting interviews and all that kind of stuff. But Chad Leistico was on yesterday. Chad's with the Des Moines Register and Iowa Press Citizen, one of the best in the business.
He does a great job.
He wrote out. He had an article that came out earlier this week about the decision that Beth Getz has with Fran McCaffrey and the Iowa basketball program, and like the numbers are just like. Both sides. I mean, like I read things pro Fran and anti Fran that were like, and he did a great job researching it. That's the beauty part is it wasn't like a hit piece. It wasn't like an opinion article where here's what I think and this is why I think it. It was like, here are the facts. Yep. This is the decision. So Fran's finished in the top half of the Big Ten in 11 of the last 12 years. The only other school to do that is Michigan State. You know, he's produced, there's guys in the NBA that went to the University of Iowa. That there was a long drought when that didn't happen. And you got the Murrays playing, you got Luka Garza playing. I mean, you have guys in the NBA that are representing Iowa. There's a lot of pluses that what Fran did. And I remember the Licklider years and all that kind of stuff. So where he brought it from. But I think and I put a little bit on Twitter that was just amazing to me. And obviously we have skin in the game. We have 2 young men that are up there that we know their families. So like I'm
rooting
the first to say that
hard.
Like, I am biased towards Brock Harding and Owen Freeman and all those guys and everything else. But he went and got the actual butts in seats of some of the games, and it was 2,800. 2,500. The Minnesota-Iowa basketball game had 2,800 people in the seats. That's 19% capacity of that arena. So yeah, I'm not asking your opinion or whatever, but like there's an interesting, like it's funny because we talk about how busy the seasons can be if things are going well, but when things are going bad, we're going to be busy as well too, because there could be a coaching search and all those kind of things that happen as well.
Everything you said, obviously accurate. I think the elephant in the room, although it's not even the elephant in the room, people talk about it all the time. And again, yesterday at the Y, in the hot tub of all places, talking about Fran McCaffrey with a guy.
He works out, no big deal.
That's just where all my conversation, because when I'm at work, I don't talk to anybody.
I told him last night on the phone, we talked on the phone yesterday, and I said, and he was going to work out. I'm like, that's what I miss that because I'm busier during the day, and I used to take kids to school and go work out. And I missed that.
You're fine. You're doing
we'll get
fine.
back at it. But okay, yeah. So you're in the hot tub.
And a guy thinks that he thinks Fran's done this year. He just doesn't see the energy or the fire there that he's had.
There's
and the big thing, I guess not. The other thing is, and again, this is just talk.
Yes.
No Sweet 16s. I mean, when you don't make that second weekend for 15 years, fans are gonna start getting restless.
Let me piggyback on that. So Jess Settles is on, and we were talking about Tom Izzo, and he played against him. Jess played for 17 years or whatever, so he's played against everybody. But he talked about when his freshman year was Judd Heathcote's last year, and then so he was at the beginning of the Izzo years, and he's like, man, I'm going to ask Izzo next time I see him, but like I don't know if he was on the hot seat, but their success wasn't there right off the bat. And he goes, the Flintstones came along, and that was the recruiting class that got them the Mateen Cleaves, and they won that. And you look at the Matt Painters and like the success in the regular season, the success in the Big Ten tournaments, but like where is it overall? You get to that Final Four, you get to that Elite Eight. That's what Brad Underwood. While Illini fans are cranky right now, it's like, are you kidding me? Right. Like, and so I think like that's a big deal. Like if you get to that at least Sweet 16 or Elite Eight, you have that. If not, it's not as big of an accomplishment as it is a void on your resume if you don't have it.
I completely agree. It's just a tough road to hoe. He's had obviously some tremendous teams, some tremendous players. It's mind-boggling that Iowa's not been to a Sweet 16 in decades, couple of decades.
99 was their last Sweet 16 team.
Yeah,
it's
so
crazy.
It's mind-boggling with the teams they've had. And as I say, just talking to people at the Y or wherever, I think the Fran popularity level has really just come down, and people are ready to mix it up and see where you go. Doesn't mean he's a bad coach or what have you.
That's the thing is, there's not anger. I don't think like people are angry. I think people like Andrew Lehman was on the show, and he's a big Iowa basketball fan. Like that was his thing growing up. And he's like, there's just apathy. He's like,
Yeah.
I like Fran. I respect everything he's done.
Sure.
He took us from being, everyone remembers the Lick Lighter years and all that he's done. It's just sometimes, I equate it sometimes to, and who knows what happens. And like, he's got a great recruiting class too.
Yeah.
Like he's got a great recruiting class. I think there's talent there. If you look at what happened this year, boy, if Owen Freeman's healthy, maybe they're winning more games. If Drew Thelwell doesn't get hurt, maybe there's a freshman there, Cooper Koch, that's a really good freshman, a top 100 freshman that you think comes in and makes a little bit of an impact. He's been hurt this season, so there's reasons why. It's almost not the on the court stuff as it is the fact that like the energy around the program. And I'll also say this too. It's hard to say, hey, Iowa fans, come to the women's basketball game on Sunday, the men's basketball game on Tuesday, women's basketball game on Thursday. I mean, you can only go to so many games and spend as much money. And when one team's doing what they're doing, it's tougher to do that on the other end as well. So there's a lot of factors to it. It's just going to be interesting because, like I said, Fran's been nothing but nice to me. The guys that I know from the program over the years, that the Nicholas Bayers, the Joe Wieskamps, the Mike Gazelles, those guys that are friends of mine, that they have nothing but great things to say about him. So like, it's not I kind of equate it to sometimes you just have to rip the Band-Aid off and maybe move on, and it's just better for everybody. Good example is I'm a Lions fan, always back to the beloved. I didn't want to see Matthew Stafford traded. I was a huge Matthew Stafford guy. And it ended up being the best thing for Matthew Stafford to get traded and go someplace else. It ended up being the best things for the Detroit Lions to move on and do something else. And it worked out for both. Maybe that's the way it is with the University of Iowa. I will say this. I know for a fact Fran has the energy that he, like, maybe, I don't know why. And you're right. People say that. He's just as invested. He's working just as hard. That's simply not true when it comes to like I've had people in the program tell me like, and he wants to keep coaching. Like he's 65. And like he has no intention of not coaching anymore. This isn't. I've heard it's not going to be a retirement thing. It's going to be a, like he plans on that passion, that fire is still there to coach. So it'll be an interesting. It's the yin and the yang of this season. You either talking about the NCAA tournament or you're talking about a possible coaching. And sometimes for our business and for maybe the business of the sports writers and sports websites and so like that, it's almost better business to have the alternative, which is a coaching search, than it is actually going to the NCAA tournament and winning games.
And when you lose an Owen Freeman and the injuries that they've had, this year is kind of a mulligan. I mean, you can't necessarily, hold them accountable, but it has been 15 years. So it's not like you'd be doing a knee-jerk reaction to this year. It's been there's been a long time here.
They didn't make it last year to the NCAA tournament.
But you're right about, when you do have the Iowa women doing what they're doing, it's, there's only so much you can do, and people are.
It's Carver. The problem is it's not Carver. You were at the games last year. Was Carver loud for the Iowa women last year?
Oh.
Like, were people there? Like, was it electric? Like, I always tell people, like, because of the fact it's just a bowl and it's not like tiered, like when Carver's full, it gets as loud as any place I've ever been because the sound just drains down on you. And it's not been that way for the men's basketball. It'll be interesting to see kind of where all that goes. Before I let you go, so I don't know if you have suffer through this show ever, but Pat Anger comes on Mondays, every Monday. Always Anger is what I like to call it. And we're going to convince him to come on Thursdays and Fridays during football season too. One of the two. But Pat does a lot with the show. Friend of the show. For years he's had this myth that he beat me in basketball. So we had when my dad does the golf outing, I do a golf outing for my dad, and like we put a basketball hoop on 7 and the tee box, and you play a little basketball with whoever's on the hole. It's really cool. You should come out to the golf outing if you're listening to this. That's actually coming out next week. We're going to announce the date and all that kind of stuff next week. But so
I gotta, you know what? Shame on me. I need to do that sometime. I think it's always like during state soccer or something where I'm in Des Moines hoping for goals or something.
Yep, I'm gonna pin you to it this year to get out there because it's a ton of fun. And so, like, anyways, long story short, we're goofing around, and we may have been overserved at this point, and we're playing. Shame on them, not us. But we're playing pig, and like I think it was PP or something like that. And like we're backing people up. There's like golf carts coming. So I'm like, we got to go. I jumped in my cart with Joe Conklin and off we went. Pat jumped into his cart and he comes past me. He's like, you quit, I win. And off he went. And that's exactly what happened. Nobody won anything. We played a drunken game of pig to pee. But anyways, he's carried this myth along that he's beat me. So we're going to play a game of pig or horse. And we're trying to figure out what the loser has to do. Right now, I'm really close to, it's going to be me having to shave my head. I'm horrified about that. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed about me, Jay, but my ears are larger than the average man's ears. I think that's the nicest way of putting it. And like, I'm starting to lose it a little bit. And I actually asked the lady who cut my hair yesterday, I said, Molly, if I shave my head, will it come back? And she laughed. She's like, yeah, you'll come back. It's just going to be a miserable 3 months of you not having hair until it grows back all the way. So I think that might happen. Maybe. I'm trying to convince Pat that if he loses, he has to wear a dress and stand at the corner of 53rd and Brady with a sign that says, I lost to Matt Randazzo playing basketball.
That would be fantastic.
So my question to you is, have you ever done dumb bets like this? Is there any ideas that you might have when it comes to like what we could do? And am I I think I'm a better basketball player than him. And it's not like we're not playing one-on-one, we're just shooting. But like I played on Sunday. I'm not as, it's like that Kenny Chesney song, I think. We're not as good as we once was. Or not, maybe it's a country song, Garth Brooks, whatever. Please don't yell at me, country fans. But like I'm not as good as I once was. Like,
well, you've got me now really nervous because I'm actually going to be doing a Go For It basketball challenge with the PV girls coming up this afternoon. Cool. I haven't shot a basketball in some time.
Yeah.
So I'll go in here. Of course, here's a team that does nothing but shoot basketballs.
So how are you doing that? Is it one of them or is it?
Reagan Pagliano, who hit the 1,000-point mark, gonna try to do a 3-point challenge with her, and I'll watch her, make 10 out of 10, and hopefully I'll hit the rim or something at some point. Yeah. Maybe one will go in.
But if you lose, you're not gonna lose your hair.
No. I'll just look stupid on TV, but I'm used to that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
We've done that for 25 years.
Yeah. Well, those challenges that I'll do, the best is when I bowled against a 6-year-old or something. If you lose to the 6-year-old, you look like, oh, really, dude? You But then if you beat the 6-year-old, you're like, oh, way to go, guy. Way to crush the 6-year-old.
What a jerk.
What a jerk. So it is an absolute, it's all for fun. We have a good time. I don't care. I don't care what happens. I mean, I know what's going to happen.
Have you thought about, like, one of those times you're always at the gym, have you thought about grabbing a basketball and shooting around a little bit?
Well, I go to the Utica Ridge Wide. There's no basketball there, and then when I go to the Bettendorf one, that's just on my swim days. So I'm in the pool. I did do a PV swimming one a couple weeks ago.
I did see that.
There's nothing better than a shirtless Jay Kidwell on TV.
I've always said that.
Ratings absolutely
peaked. There should be a shirt that says "I love a topless Jay Kidwell." I would wear that shirt.
Well, you know what? That could be a part of the bet.
$1 billion idea right there.
That's
But yeah, like I think, and also when I'm playing, I think I'm gonna be nervous, and that's gonna affect everything. He's a professional athlete. He's played in front of 70,000 people or 100,000
national television
people.
audience.
Like, he's not gonna get flustered at all. I'm gonna be shaken when I'm shooting a free throw. I can't lose my hair, Jay. But here's the thing: what's best for business is either one of them are best for my business, because it does. I'm assuming people would tune in to watch Pat Anger shave my head.
Sure.
And I'm assuming people would tune in to watch
your hair grow back.
And also to watch let's assume I win.
Sure.
To watch Pat on the corner with a. So, anyways.
I'd go get VO of that.
It's weird, yeah, right.
I mean, that's good.
It's weird to think that like he just keeps on dodging it though.
Okay.
Like every week it's going to be the next week. Every week we're going to play at PepsiCo. I've already talked with my good friend down in London. He's going to, and we'll shoot it. So we'll have what happens. It was so much easier to shoot things when I worked at a TV station with a bunch of people who shot things.
Sure.
Like I got to figure out who's going to go shoot it and all those kind of things. But I got the cameras and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, any advice? Because you do these things on Go For It and all that kind of stuff.
Boy, I mean, if I had any advice, maybe I'd win some of these things. I mean, I have no idea what I'm doing out there.
Have you ever want to go for it?
I mean, I'm sure I have. I'd have to try to think about it, but I mean, I just did pin the nose on the snowman or something. I've done some very odd things, but for the most part, I try to go up against. I mean, just have fun with it. I'm trying to showcase the high school like Reagan. I'm just showcasing how great they are. It's not about me.
It's a creative way to tell her story in a different way than just doing a piece. Reagan is good. She scored 1,000 points. Like, it's a fun way to celebrate what she's done and her personality. She's got a great personality.
Yeah,
too.
It's not about me. And I mean, I'll just go out there and be a goof and do whatever I do and just make it fun. That's what I will say. That's probably as much feedback as I get as anything. And then I'll always ask people, like, in fact, I am always looking for suggestions. So if you have a challenge, you know what? Now that you're not at the Mighty Eight, me and you could do one. It doesn't have to be anything complex. It could be darts. It could be any. It doesn't have to be.
I'm gonna challenge you in something.
I've torn my rotator cuff doing some of these things. I've had multiple injuries with things. One of them was a gymnastics thing, and guy had me standing on my head. He's holding my ankles. So, you know, I'm
That's a different
I'm
way to start
upside
a
down.
story.
And then he's like, I'm going to let go of your ankles. And I'm like, well, we know what's going to happen when you let go of my ankles. I mean,
You fall.
I'm just going to come right down. And he's like, well, we'll see. Maybe you can stand. I'm like, I'm not going to be standing up here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, boom, I come crashing down.
And you hurt your
Well, that was part of it. I was up on the monkey bars swinging around, and apparently that's where I ripped my rotator cuff.
When was that?
Oh, this was probably close to 10 years ago. It was a Monday night. It was when the Bears and the Cowboys were playing in December. So it was
still, Jay, what are we doing on monkey bars?
well, I mean, at that point, I was probably still upper 40s, so I was feeling good. And I mean, now I'm 60s, so I mean, I'm trying to.
Are you 60?
September, I hit 60.
Good for you. Is this coming up September? Or the one before?
No, I'm 6'0" now. Yeah.
I would have never, honestly.
50 is the only one.
You've had the silver hair since I've known you.
Sure.
When did the silver happen?
Well, actually, in high school, I graduated Glastonbury, Connecticut, Glastonbury High School, 1982. Okay. But I remember the barber in Glastonbury said, "Oh, you got like a strand, like one strand."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, it looks distinguished." I'm like, I guess the guy's name was Mike. I'm like, Mike, I don't need to look distinguished. I can't even buy a beer. I mean, like, I don't need to have this thing happening. Yeah. But I just sort of let it roll. When I worked in Hartford, it was sort of half and half. But they had me color my hair because they said the main anchor, Al Terzi, they said Al's the only one that can have gray hair on the set. So I've got to cut. And that was actually to me more alarming, like, the whatever just for men. I just sort of did whatever. Yeah. And then I did it, and then whoa, what is, and then you sort of think you look weird, and oh, great, now I get to go do TV looking like I'm not even sure what I look like. But fortunately out here, it is what it is.
You know what I've learned more than anything is that they don't care what we look like.
Yeah.
It's not, and I'm speaking on behalf of Joey Danya, on behalf of Corey Cuffler, on behalf of yourself, and go back into time, and none of us are good looking at all.
Yeah.
They just want, we're the messenger, and they want to hear us talk about their athletes, their students, I remember I had some news directors, and they were probably right. Like, when I first got there, my eyebrows, I had to, they wanted me to do my eyebrows. They told me I had to grow my hair out. They literally, one of my news directors, and this was I had a good stretch where we had Alan Baker forever. But there was a stretch where I had a different news director. You probably every year, every other year, whatever. But one news director, my very first one, froze me on camera, and I'm really young. And they said, hey, your ears are big. And I said, thank you. And they said, and they took a marker, and if you grew your hair out, it would color in between your ears and make your ears look less big. And I was like, so I got to grow my hair out? And they're like, yeah. So I remember I had a news director tell me one time that I talk with my hands too much. I'm Italian.
Yeah.
And that's how you talk in general.
Sure.
Nobody sits there and does this.
Right.
I always give Andrew Lehman a hard time because when I do an interview with him, he's that way too, where he does. And he'll now I make him conscious when he doesn't. I'm like, no, that's how people. Sure. But they told me when we used to sit that we had to, I should sit on my hands when I do the sportscast. And I go, that is the most awkward thing in the world. That looks ridiculous. But I think there was probably a week or two where I sat on my hands just so I could do the sportscast. And again, it all goes back to they don't care what we look like. It doesn't, as long as we're doing our job and giving them the news. I found out 4 or 5 years in that it doesn't matter. Don't worry, don't stress out about if they're going to let a goofy kid with big ears be on TV for 25 years, anybody can be on TV for 25 years.
The best is some of the anchors up in the makeup room or whatever, sitting in there for 20 minutes doing this, that, and the, I go up there, brush my hair out.
Do you do makeup still?
I do no makeup.
Have you ever done makeup?
Probably not in 15 years. I used to maybe put on powder just to dent, but I don't. I do absolutely nothing.
In our bathroom at WQAD, we would have the shelf, and then and everybody put their makeup on it. There was one anchor that I'll refrain from saying his name, Matt Hamill, that had a lot of makeup on there, and they would just cake the shelf, and so Dan would come in and go, all right, I'm good, and that was it, and then off he went, and so I never wore any. We got to the HD era, where they literally brought people in with spray guns,
right?
And they were showing us how to spray paint our, and this is wild, and they're training me, and I'm like, okay, this is going to take a minute, right? And they're like, yeah, it's probably going to take. I'm like, what happens if I'm running in from an event when I have 2 minutes to get ready to go out on air? And they're like, oh, so they said you can brush it on, and so Paulie Mayfield, remember Paulie Mayfield? She was Miss Iowa.
Okay, yep.
She was a reporter. Paulie's was awesome.
Yep.
And she would put my makeup on for me for a while, and then she showed me how to do it. And so I did it for a few years, and like I didn't do it right. I used like a plastic spoon, and like drops and a pen cap to mix it up. And like everyone at the station thought I was an idiot. And I did it for a while. And I remember my kids were really young. My oldest ones were really young. I'd say, Daddy has to go put on his war paint.
Yes.
Because I was like, I'm not going to say Daddy's going to go put on his makeup. And then like the pandemic hit. And I'm sitting here at home for a year, not doing anything but TV like this. And I'm like, I'm not wearing makeup anymore. Yep. And I think I got back and Cuff said the same thing. I'm like, I'm not wearing makeup anymore. He's like, I'm not wearing makeup either. So I haven't worn makeup since the pandemic. And I would say there was only probably like a 3 or 4 year period where like we did, but other than that, no.
You reminded me of a story with the makeup and the kids. I remember when the kids were little. I think it's another Emily story when she was little. Having some friends over at the house, but we were out shopping or out running some errands or something. And she's like, we'll be home. We just got to pick up my dad's makeup, and then we'll be home. So now, like, red alert to the parents of her friends. Oh, they're picking up her dad's makeup. All right, things are good.
I would get makeup from Capri. Over there at Capri College, like that little and like I think it was probably Wheezy, but I was there for something and I was talking to someone and they said, "Hey, can I use your announcing thing, your microphone, like the the paging system?" And they let him, and he was like, "WQAD's Matt Randazzo, your makeup is ready. WQAD's Matt Randazzo, your makeup is ready." And I just looked at him like, "You jerk." I'm pretty sure it was Wheezy. It was somebody. They always have to give me a hard time. Well, this has been fun.
One last one.
Yeah,
I remember
absolutely.
my first job, Springfield, Massachusetts. First time I was anchoring, this reporter, Joanne, sweetheart. She was trying to help me with the makeup.
Yeah.
But, man, she did, like, the base, the powder, I don't know, something on the lips, something else. I had, like, 6 different layers of something. Then some of my buddies were like, they watched, like my first anchor show. They're like, what the hell happened to your face?
Remember Miranda Kahn?
Yep.
She did that with me way back in the day. You need to wear makeup. And so I let her do it. And then I got on set and I'm getting ready. It's like 10 seconds. And she looks at me. She's like, you look like a crack.
Oh.
Something. I don't know. I can say it on YouTube, whatever. And I'm just like, well, thank you. And I did. I got on camera. I'm just like, what did you do to me? And she's like, yeah, it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. I'm like, thank you for that.
Nice to know 5 seconds before you're going
like 10
on.
seconds. She's like, ooh, that doesn't
but have a
look
good
that
show.
Yeah.
Go get them.
Go get them. Well, we got to wrap up for one last look at weather.
No,
we don't, Jay. We can do whatever we want. Like no weather.
Sun's out.
Yep, sun's out. It's a little warmer. That wraps it up. Have fun tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate you doing this. I'm going to keep bugging you because we're going to do this ever so often. I love doing this.
I'm so impressed with you. I mean, what you've been doing and the growth in like
It's going
6
okay.
weeks.
It's
I mean,
going
this,
okay.
as I said to you yesterday, like this could be at the 6 month or the year mark, and you're doing this at 6 weeks.
It's not me. It's this area loves sports.
Yep.
And like if you give them something to talk about and like a venue to talk about sports and do it in whatever way you want to do it, like what I'm doing is I'm throwing stuff on a wall, and if it sticks, if it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, then I learn and move on and do the other stuff. I didn't know how much in the high schools I was going to get, and I look at these next few weeks and I'm like, well, I'm going to get into the high schools big time because like there's such good things happening when it comes to state and all, like the state wrestling's this weekend. I think somebody told me Jude Finch lives like 5 minutes from my house because he's out here in Rock Ridge area. I'm like, well, that might be my Monday show. Go win the state championship. We'll have. So anyways, it's gone great. It's been a ton of fun. And if you have an idea for Jay to do go for it, and you can work. If you can work me into doing, I would do it in a minute. Like I think that'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, me and you can do one. I mean, again, you're.
I just gotta figure out what. So if you got any ideas, let me know. Hopefully, Jay, next time you come in, I'm not wearing a stocking cap with a bald head.
I will look forward to that. That'll.
Everyone's getting annoyed by it more than anything else because it's just not. We're not doing it. We got to actually do it and all that kind of stuff.
But I'd like to see Anger out there on the street with I lost a bet.
It wouldn't be the first time you wore a dress.
That would be some compelling TV.
Yeah, I'll let you know either way. That'll be well worth of OSAT.
That is definitely worth of. It's like the lead story. Yeah. I mean, there's times things are
right.
That's good.
Not just in your sportscast.
Oh yeah, no.
Off the top of the show.
Well, I think people.
Jay Kidwell's live on 53rd with more.
There we go.
Background. It could make it work. So, Jay, I appreciate you doing this.
Great to be here. Thank
All
you for
right.
the invitation.
All right. Well, it's been a fun week here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. If you missed any of the shows we talked about on the top, but we've had some great guests this week. Glenn Cook, Andrew Lehman announcing the Zach Brown Band on Wednesday was a ton of fun. Jess Settles, Pat Anger, Jay Kidwell, you name it, we've done it. High school coaches in between. The Alleman girls on today, which was a ton of fun as well. So if you get a second, you're bored this weekend, go back, check out the shows. We're on YouTube. We're on X if you want to check them out on X as well. And then all of your podcasting platforms as well. That'll do it for this week. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. We'll see you guys back here on Monday with Always Angerer Mondays, which God only knows what we'll be talking about then. Appreciate you guys. Take care. And as I fumble through, I got to find my little logo, and we're done. Thanks, Jay.
Send you out with